Welcome to Unapologetic and Free. You don't know my story. I'm Lekia.
I'm Shar.
We're sisters by blood
and friends by choice.
We want to welcome our special guest on tonight, Mr. Jeff West. Before you even go into anything, I got to get this off of my heart. I need you to help me figure out when we met, because I know we've been knowing you since early 2000s, but I just cannot pinpoint the year, and I won't mention said church, but I can't remember the year that we started or you started going to said church.
I began in 2004.
Okay.
So maybe 2006, 2007, somewhere in there.
Because this is why I always didn't know, because I joined in 2005. So I started going there in like July of 2005 when it was on Okie. We'll just say that, when it was on Okie, right? So we go back to Okie.
Right.
Okay. So now that helps me kind of put some timeline to this, because Shanae was pretty sure it was Okie, but I just wasn't sure that it was Okie.
So we're talking about maybe 17 years or so.
Yes. Can you even?
Oh my goodness.
So that's why I kind of had to just start with that, because I'm like, I need to just really get the full understanding of just how long we've known each other, and to even be here today, just being able to share, because even in this 17 years, but I don't know your story. I don't even know, again, what brought you to that church. I don't even know how you came. I mean, I know nothing except we just was at this church together, and I don't really know. And so again, I'm just grateful first that you agreed to even come on and share your story. We do want to give you this opportunity now to go ahead and just share a little bit about yourself.
Well, first, thank you guys for having me. I've never done anything like this. As far as, sharing my story, I was a little nervous that I was drinking my Welch's grape juice, and I said, "Oh Lord, I'm gonna dribble my grape juice on my shirt before they get me on film here." But nonetheless, my name is Jeffrey West. I was born in Grand Rapids, Michigan in 1975. I'm 46. I'll be 47 this month. On the 29th of this month, I'll be 47. My father's name was Ira West. My mother's name was Bernice West. When I was born, my father was 53. My mother was 48. So I grew up in an old home around older people. So thank you for having me. I got a beautiful lady. Look, I almost missed it. I got a beautiful, beautiful wife by the name of Kiba West. We're going on 21 years of marriage this month as well. March 20th, we'll be married 21 years. So yeah, I got my beautiful
Congratulations.
Wife. I have 5 kids. 5 kids.
Wow. Also didn't know that.
Yeah, my oldest, Zariah. Zariah will be 26 this year. Then my second oldest, Nicaea, will be 24 this year. Then after Nicaea, I have Ayana. Ayana will be 23 this year. Then I have Miles, who will be 20 this year. And then I have my youngest, Jevin. He'll be 19 this year.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. Look, when you said that, I'm really like, it's been that long, because if Jevin is 19, we were teaching in like children's church. Like, so to be 19, oh my God.
Yes, he graduates high school in May. Jevin will be 19 in December. Yeah, so
and I always remember y'all's anniversary, because I remember 3:20, Ephesians 3:20. Like, it's just been something about that date, even throughout all the years, that I always remember when it's y'all anniversary, because of that Ephesians 3:20 style.
Yes, and what's funny, when we picked that day to get married, we had no idea. I wasn't saved. Kiba wasn't saved.
Oh,
but we had no idea as well. Also, there's the first day of spring. I had no idea. So we picked a great day to
right. Because my birthday is the next day, the 21st.
21st.
That's how I remember it.
Yes. Yes. Man, I've been knowing y'all 17 years.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and it's just crazy that even then I didn't know you had 5 kids.
Well, I need to explain that in my story as well.
Okay.
So I was gonna say, so with that, because we could talk and we can go on and on about this 17 years, because again, we've been knowing each other that long. And so
Right.
with that being said, we want to just go ahead and give you the opportunity to go ahead and share your story.
Okay. All right. So where shall I begin? I'll begin in Grand Rapids, Michigan, 1975. I was born here to Irene Bernice West. To my knowledge, I'll start with that. To my knowledge, my parents were middle-class African Americans. They were business owners. My dad owned a upholstery company. He did his own upholstery. My mother was a beautician. She had her own beautician shop. I was the only child, as far as I knew, up until about 3 years old. So when I was 3, my mother and father adopted a half Indian young man who became my brother Tony, who is my brother Anthony, the wildest guy on Facebook and on social media, but that's my older brother. So they adopted him when he was 5, I was 3 when he was adopted. And he became my brother for life. And, you know, we've never said anything like half brother or adopted brother. Me and him, we clicked immediately. You know, soon as he came in the house, he had been multiple places, and I'm not going to get in. I'll let him share his story someday, because he has no problem sharing it. It's quite the story also. But we clicked right away. We grew up playing sports. I took the basketball, he took the football. My parents put us in a private school. So soon as he was ready for primary school, first grade, second grade, we went to private schools. You know, we lived in the neighborhood that, it's funny, my wife said we were like the Huxtables, but one street over would be, you know, drugs, you know, and going into the crack era into the late 80s and the early 90s, like 1-2 streets over. But we had a fairly good neighborhood. In our neighborhood, middle class, African American, full families, you know, and everybody in our neighborhood, for the most part, they lived in the same house for 30, 40, even 50 years. Actually, our neighbor that I grew up around, he still lives in the house next door to our house. My godmother, she's gone and passed on to be with the Lord, but her daughter still lives in the house across the street from where I grew up. So, you know, everyone stayed in the same vicinity growing up. So our neighborhood was really tight knit growing up. So fast forward a little bit into me liking basketball. So my dad concreted our backyard and put up a basketball hoop. That drew all the kids from the neighborhood. So my house became the hangout growing up. And that's where I met a lot of what would be some pastors, some dope dealers, some killers, some, you know, but my mother and father, because they were people, they loved kids, they had no problem with our house just being a hangout. And I mean, literally at any given time, there'd be like 25, 30 kids in the backyard playing basketball. My parents had no problem with it. Fast forward a little further. So one day I'm out in the backyard and one of the kids was calling my dad granddad. Granddad kind of threw me off, you know. So I asked my mother, Mom, why does Carlise call dad granddad? And she said, you ask your father that. Yikes.
Yikes.
Come to find out that my father had a daughter that I knew. I had been to the house before. My dad was the type of guy that he would take you everywhere with him. He was a really family guy, family-oriented guy. He'd take you everywhere. I have an older sister that only lived 3 blocks away growing up, and I'd had no idea.
Wow.
Wow.
My older sister, Sheila, who I found out about that day from, you know, my dad, but I had met her before. We had been by the house before. My dad did a furniture, so he was always dropping furniture off somewhere. I had met them before, but I didn't know that was my sister. We got a really great relationship now. She lives here in Grand Rapids. That's one of the reasons I wanted to move back, to be closer around my family. My sister just turned 65 in August.
Wow.
And retired. Yeah, so you understand, my siblings are old. You know, I grew up around, if my father was alive, he would be 100.
Wow.
So I grew up around a lot of older people. My father was one out of 14. So all my aunts and uncles were, you know, a lot older. My first cousins are in their 70s, 80s. They passed away.
Wow.
Yeah. So fast forward a little further. We were at a family reunion. I was probably about 10 or 11 years old or so. And a woman came up to me and she said, and I knew everybody, but I did not know this woman. This woman came up to me and she's like, "Oh, you're the little boy that Mutt and them adopted." And I'm thinking, no, you got to be mistaken. My brother's the one that was adopted. I'm not adopted. And she's like, "No, you're Jeffrey, right? You're the one they adopted." I went and asked my mother, and mind you, this at a family reunion.
Mm.
I went and asked my mother, and she had a look on her face of horror. I mean, she just started crying, and she's like, "No, I'm your mom." I left it alone. From that point on, I realized that day at a family reunion, I found out I was adopted as well.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, so
How old were you? How old were you?
I don't know how old I never asked my parents before they passed. All my aunts and uncles, all of the 14 are all gone, but 2, and the 2, they said they have no idea. The pictures I have of me, I got some pictures of me in the house growing up at 2 months old. So I had to be like right after birth adopted. And
Right. Okay.
what's said mostly by a lot of people is that I'm probably in the family. I'm probably a West, anyway by blood, because normally they don't let a couple that old adopt a baby that young like that,
Oh, I see
unless
what
it's
you're saying.
someone in the family. Um, Funny story is what I found out, and me and my sister had this conversation just a couple of months ago, and I had no idea about this because I grew up, my sister a few blocks away, and she was never, to my knowledge, able to come by our house. And I thought it was because of, it was uncomfortable to my mom that my dad had an affair and had a woman out, a baby outside of the house. My mother couldn't have kids. And so I found out just recently, I was over at my sister's house, and her oldest sister said, "I remember your mom calling this house one time." And I said, "Really?" She said, "Yeah, your mom wanted to adopt Sheila."
Wow.
And she said, my mom was so mad that she would even ask. And I thought about it, and I said, I wonder if my situation was similar. That my mom, maybe if my dad stepped out prior, again, maybe
Right.
that my
Okay.
mom asked to adopt, because I would have never thought that she would want to adopt the baby that was out of wedlock, that adulterous situation. But
Right.
come to find out, that happened, and that made me really shed a new light on it for me as far as my mom. That it wasn't that my sister couldn't come over; is my sister's mom didn't want her to come over.
Got it.
If that makes sense. So I've never found out. I had a really good childhood, so I'm like I'm good. I had we were the type of family every summer we took vacations. I had a really good childhood. So for me, and my dad always had me with him. And I look like all the West. So, I've had people say, aren't you concerned, or don't you want to know who you're real? Nah, not so. I'm good. It's funny. Other people want to know more than I do, because
Oh, come on. That's what
I
I was
had
gonna say. Like, you're at peace with it, but it's other people that want to stir up stuff.
you know what? And I don't even know if it's stir up. It's just, for me, it's like I have great memories of my childhood and of my parents. And my brother, he went back to find his mom. It didn't turn out to be a good situation for him, you know, as far as drugs and all, you know. He ended up, for the most part, taking care of them on that side. And it was really tough for him, you know, having people that they needed him more than he needed them, if that makes sense. So for me, I was like, I'm good. Fast forward, with all the kids that I grew up with in the neighborhood, like I said, some of them were in single parent homes. Some of them, you know, because a lot of times what would happen is friends would bring friends to my house. So I met a lot of people from my friends bringing a friend of theirs to their house, to my house. And I was cool with everybody, so I ended up hanging out with some of everybody. My brother, he is an interesting cat to this day. Growing up, he was a brawler. He was the type of dude that would fight anybody. Start a fight with anybody, want to fight with everybody. And so it became kind of a reputation of being the younger brother of the dude that would fight anybody at the drop of a hat. And his friends were fighters and drug dealers and whatnot. So I kind of grew up under kind of a canopy that was it was different. It was different. I wasn't so much a fighter as much as my brother was, but it got me into a lot of stuff just being his brother, if that makes sense. I have friends that were doing things. I had a cousin that always was stealing cars. And so 11 years old, we go out to skating. I don't know if y'all did that in Vegas. We go skating every Saturday from 8 to 11 at night. My dad would drop us off. And my cousin, Alan, who's passed away, he's a wild dude. He would always carry gloves and a screwdriver to skating. Because we wasn't going skating, we was going stealing cars. So we get to skating, go outside skating, and go find a car and joyride until close to 11 o'clock, go back to skating. My dad would pick us up at 11 p.m. after we'd been all over town and stolen cars. That was, and you know, I think back of, I didn't grow up in a house where I had to be doing stuff like that. I gravitated, for some reason, I gravitated towards a lot of foolishness. I gravitated towards the dude that had the cell phone in the 80s. You know, I had a cousin that hustled, and I would drive his car to driver's training. You know, so he would let me use his car to go to driver's training. And it was the craziest thing. So I'm not glorifying none of this, okay? Let's just, for the record, guys, I'm not glorifying none of this. It was ignorant. That was part of it. And so fast forward a little more, I know time is ticking. About 15 years old, my brother, he was in and out of juvenile, in and out of prison when I was in my teenage years. My mother got some foster kids, 2 foster brothers, Ramondo and Leonte. Both of them are in prison right now. One night we were in the basement. I was the older brother. I was probably like 2-3 years older than them, smoking weed. One of them had bought a gun, and they were just pointing at each other. You know, kids joking around. They couldn't have been older. It's probably 12, 13. I was probably 15 or 16 at the time. And Sean, whose real name was Ramondo, he pointed the gun at Leonte, pulled the trigger. The clip was out, but it was one in the chamber. Shot him in between the eyes right there on the couch in the basement. It was like everything went in slow motion that night. I called 911. I ran upstairs to wake my parents up. It was one of the worst scenarios ever. Here they are in a home to have a better life. I'm the older brother, and I'm down here smoking weed with them and cool with them having a gun. The bullet went through Tay's head, went through right between his eyes, stopped in the back of his skull. They did the surgery to remove the bullet, remove the blood off of his brain and everything. He had scar tissue, of course, an ugly scar, but he survived it. Wow. Not the same person afterward, though. he went from a person kind of like how I joke a lot and talk a lot. He went from that type of person to just being quiet around people. It was just the oddest thing. He wasn't the same after that bullet. Fast forward a little bit, he broke into someone's house, raped a girl, and he's in prison for that. Sean, Ramondo, the one who shot Tay, he went through different foster homes. Armed robbery, assault with intent to commit murder. He had a lot of violent crimes after that. He's actually, his earliest release date is 2035 right now. He's been in for close to 20 years right now. Me and him, I still conversate and communicate with my little brother. He still calls me his big brother, but you know, I do carry the weight of, I was supposed to be the good influence on them. They were brought into a good home, and I introduced them to my friends on the neighborhood, you know, different things. So that, you know, he forgave me, I forgave myself, but that's part of it that, you know, that messed with me a little bit. Fast forward a little bit more, my mother and father, my grandmother lived out in Las Vegas, and she was getting a little bit of dementia. So my mother would go back and forth to Las Vegas because it was her mother. And my dad's parents had been passed away years ago, but my mother's mom was the only one that I remember being alive, at least while, you know, since I was born. And so my mother her and my dad would go back and forth. One time they went out and they'd be gone for weeks at a time. Now, mind you, I'm a teenager in Michigan by myself.
Okay.
Already hanging with the wrong crowd at times. So I got into selling dope. I got into smoking weed. I never got into what a lot of people was doing at that time. They was doing heroin and, you know, putting it in Dristan and, you know, sniffing heroin, and there was dudes doing all kind of stuff during that era. I never got into none of that. I smoked weed, which was bad enough because I didn't realize till later on I was addicted to that.
Wow.
You know? But my main addiction growing up really was women. My addiction was women. I had friends that loved to drink, hang out in clubs and stuff like that. My addiction was women. And this is how I ended up with 5 kids. So fast forward a little bit, my mother and father going back to Vegas, back and forth. My dad called me. This was in probably May of '97. I was, how old was I then? I was 20, getting ready to turn 20. I turned 22. I just turned 22, May of '97. And my brother was in prison. He had went to prison for 4 years for unarmed robbery. And so I was by myself. My dad called me and said, "You need to hurry up and get out here. Your mother's sick." I hurry up and I come out to Vegas. My mother couldn't walk from this end of the room to the other. She was on oxygen. I hadn't seen her in maybe a month or two, maybe longer than that, maybe 3 months. But her health had drastically declined. She ended up with heart disease and lung cancer. She smoked cigarettes, you know, for, you know, back in the day. My mother was born in '27. So she smoked cigarettes probably from 1938, 39 or so up until she passed in July of '97. So I came out to Vegas 2 weeks after I got out there. My mother died. My father, he told me, he said, "I want you to stay here in Vegas and start over. You're not doing anything back home, but you know, you're gonna be dead. You know, the typical, you're gonna be dead or in jail the way you." So I stayed out in Vegas. My father, he flew my mother back to Michigan here for her funeral. He told me he didn't want me to come back. I didn't go to my mother's funeral.
Wow.
I didn't go to my mother's funeral. This was the one time in my life I really listened to my father, and it was for the betterment of my life that I listened to him. A lot of people didn't understand it, but I could get it. My dad he was serious. I don't want you coming back. He gave me an opportunity to have a viewing of my mom out in Vegas, and then he flew her body back for the funeral. I stayed in Vegas. I had a cousin that lived out there. He said he was going to look for a job, so I went up to the Fiesta on Rancho and Lake Mead to get a job. I had a house at 952 West Lake Mead. There's a Rainbow School of the Arts there now. I sold my house to them. My house was directly across the street from Doolittle. The library's address was 951. My address was 952. So my first house there in Las Vegas was right there. Where that School of the Arts is, right there on the corner of Lake Mead and LaSalle. My house was the second house from the corner.
Okay.
So they bought the house next to mine that was on the corner of my house, the two empty lots next to me, and all the houses that were behind us. They bought all it. If I would have known then what I know now, that woman had some money, I would have held out for a little bit more money. That's a whole nother thing. So I ended up going to the Fiesta with my cousin. He was a chef by trade, and he was trying to get in there. And I said, well, I'll go for valet. It seems simple enough. And so the lady asked me, I'll never forget it. She asked me, what's the most important thing on the job? And I said, to make some money. And everybody, it was a room full of people that when she was giving me this questionnaire, and everybody in there was laughing at me. And she says, okay, what's the second most important thing on the job? I said, give me enough time to make money. And everybody laughed at me, but I only saw one person in orientation with me when I had orientation, though.
Oh, come on.
In hindsight, fast forward, and I realized that it's really difficult to get a job of valet in Las Vegas. I didn't realize that even then that the hand of God was on my life to get me that type of job so I could have cash in my hand at the end of the night. I had my schedule was ridiculous. You gotta mind you, I was a 22-year-old man, lived by myself in Las Vegas, and my schedule was from 3:30 in the afternoon to 11:30 in the evening.
Wow.
So I got out of work and I did everything. I did enough for everybody. I did enough for everybody. When I first moved out to Vegas, I had the girl that I was seeing at the time, and this is a sad commentary, that I didn't really know her. It was just somebody I had been messing with on and off and whatnot. I knew her sister. I knew of her other sister, but to this day, I don't even know her dad's name. And she came out to Las Vegas with me from Michigan, stayed with me up until December, where I found out she was pregnant. She got pregnant sometime around September or October. And she said in December, I want to go home and just, visit my dad for the holidays. And I said, okay, fine. She got back home and called me and told me I'm not coming back.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I said. Wow, my first child, and you left. And I was bitter for a while. Her mindset was, you made good money when you were here. Why don't you just come back to Grand Rapids and do what do your thing? But I got a job, I got a house, I got a car note now. I got some
responsibility.
I got real responsibilities now, and I couldn't, and I was honoring what my father had told me to do. So I stayed. My daughter was born in June. This was the first daughter that I had. So my first biological child was born in June of '98. So in that interim, she's gone. She left in December. I'm back out here, y'all. So I'm messing around with multiple women and whatnot. Came across a young lady. We hit it off a little bit. Messed around here and there, and then she moved to North Carolina. Fast forward, I ended up meeting Kiba maybe, let's see, that was 98, 99. Okay, 99, the young lady who I was messing around with came back out to Vegas. She said, "This is your baby." So I had another daughter. In
Wow.
September of the following year, I was messing around, and this, like I said, this is not a braggadocious statement. This is actually sad. I was messing around with so many young ladies at the time, and people telling me, "I'm pregnant by you," because I wasn't being safe. And, I did not. I told her that, no, that ain't my baby. That, that's me and you ain't even been around each other or whatnot. I'm not even, putting the dates and the timelines together. So I kind of brushed her off. She moves back to North Carolina, where she was from. And a few months later from that, I met Kiba. Now, Kiba already had a daughter at that time who was at that time maybe 3. Zariah might have been 3 at the time when we got together, when I met her. We just talked on the phone for months. I met her at a gas station, the gas station across the street from the Fiesta there on Smoke Ranch / and Rancho. So I met her there. I was just out getting ready to play basketball. She was there putting gas in her car. And I yelled across the gas station. I was like, "Hey, you got a boyfriend?" It was packed. The gas station was packed, and everybody looked at me. And she looked, and I'm like, "Yeah, not y'all. You over there, you got a boyfriend?" And she just started laughing. And she was like, "What is wrong with this dude?" And when she shook her head, no, I was like, "Well, can I be your boyfriend?" And she was like, "This dude is crazy." I walked up to her. I got her number that day, and we just call and talk. We talked so much. Honestly, probably about 7, 8 months went by. I forgot what she looked like because we never saw each other. All we did was talk on the phone.
Wow.
We joked with each other. She went through a miscarriage. She was with someone at the time, but me and her was just really cool. We really vibed. We vibed really good. So one day I took on a shift for the day shift for valet, and somebody had called in or something, so I did a double. And so I was there on the day shift. It was so boring. Nothing was happening on the day shift. I wasn't making no money that day. And I'm sitting there in the booth, and here come Kiba walking across the valet lot, her and Zariah. And I'm like, "That's that girl," because now I'm putting a face with who I've been talking to. So I went out there and I talked to her, and the rest is history. We'll be married 21 years this month.
Yay.
We literally got married after we saw each other. We probably got married about 4 months later. I don't think we knew each other maybe a year or so before we got married.
Wow.
So
now I remember
years later.
I remember seeing y'all wedding picture. I don't know where I was, but I remember seeing how y'all got married.
Them wedding pictures is something else because they tell the story on where we really were in life. We almost did one of those drive-through weddings. We were just gonna get married. We I said, "You want to get married?" Yeah. We didn't know we needed a witness, and
Right.
we were just gonna get married. So for us, we really learned each other as we went. We didn't know nothing really about each other, fast forward, we ended up a year and a half later, we had our son Miles. Then the year following that, we had our son Jevin. And then a little bit after Jevin is when we joined the church. And that's when we, because Jevin was only a few months old when we joined. Miles was a little over a year and a half.
See, I told Lekia, I was like, I remember having Jevin and Bryce in the back of Okie. Okay.
Yeah, they're not that far apart age-wise. They're not that far apart. And
see, I never did children's church until I want to say we got to Bruce. So I didn't start interacting with them until it was Mighty Warriors in the upper room. So I didn't know them as a baby.
God's hand was on your life that you didn't have to do. Them jokers is something else. But yeah, that's within the years of that, 2000, let's fast forward, 2012, I believe it was. 2012, okay, back up. 2010, I joined Facebook. I'm like, all right, everybody doing the Facebook. I really don't want to. Okay. I joined Facebook.
Question.
2000, huh?
Did you go through sonship school with us?
The first class.
Okay.
Yep, first class. Yep.
Okay.
2009, I think was our graduating class.
Yes.
2009. Yep. 2012, I get a message through Facebook saying, "Hey, this is your daughter. I've been trying to find you for years."
Wow.
So the young lady that went back to North Carolina, she finally found. Now, mind you, I had the house on Lake Mead. My father died in 2002, so no way to get in touch with me through him. I sold the house that was on Lake Mead. They tore it down and built a school. No way to get in touch with me through that. She had been looking for me for years. I met my youngest daughter when she was 12 through Facebook. So I finally got a chance to, well, she met me originally. I was too immature to realize that was my daughter then.
Got it.
I reunited with her when she was 12 years old. She's beautiful, beautiful. She's such a entrepreneur, such a cultured person. She loves her culture. She loves, trying to be a business owner. She's doing her thing. I'm grateful for those relationships. You can't force them. I think I tried to force it originally and just, be dad instead of getting to know her first. So I kind of pushed her, but we've got better with it. Just as she's older now and I'm older, we communicate. My daughter that was born in Grand Rapids, she literally lives like, I don't know, like 8 minutes away now. Me and her relationship, it was a strain when she was little because some things that her mother would tell her, things that her mother would tell her about. Because once I got married, it got funny. It got weird. Without. But she came out to visit when she was about 16. She came out to Vegas to visit. She really got to know me, got to know Kiba, got to know her siblings, and she really enjoyed herself so much so I think it messed her up a little bit, that I wasn't who I was portrayed to be.
Got it.
So neither was my wife. Y'all know my wife. She loved everybody. So I mean, she, want to do her hair, take her, get her nails done, and come to find out, and this is sad, that things that I would send her for Christmas when she was little, she was told that my brother was the one giving her that stuff. So all the Christmases of her as a child, she didn't think I was getting her anything. She thought that was my brother buying her that stuff. But I would send it to my brother to send to her. And nobody explained to her until me and her sat down last summer. We were having lunch and we were talking about something, one of her toys as a kid. And I was like, yeah, I thought you liked that. And she said, wait a minute. You got that for me, Dad? And she said, wait, that was my favorite. And I said, wait. And so we start running back all the stuff that I bought for her. And when the light, you can literally see the light cut on. Like, wait a minute, you were the one buying me all this stuff? And, I felt bad that it made a rift between her and her mom a little bit, But I was just being honest. That, hey, I love you. I've always loved you, And so our relationship is great. That's my look. And matter of fact, her and Kiba, they call themselves twins. Because them two, they something else together. there's something else again. So my journey to get back, I'm looking at the time. I want to be mindful of the time.
Again, we'll let you know when the time is up. So don't worry about that.
Yes, do not.
Because I have some questions.
Yes. So I'm gonna fast forward to my journey to Michigan.
That's what I was going to ask. How did you end up back in Michigan?
God had really been speaking to me about moving back. And I think really, sometimes you need something to kick you in your butt to just do what God has told you to do. So let me tell
Yes.
you how this happened and how I knew it was God. So I'm at work. They don't want to pay me what I'm worth at work. And I'm starting to get a little bothered. I've been at the company for 18 years, close to 18 years. I'm sitting at my desk at my office. And so I got on Indeed and I started looking up jobs here in Michigan. I looked up a job, sent in my resume. They called me within 30 minutes.
Oh,
30 minutes. This was on a Tuesday. Matter of fact, this was on a Tuesday, maybe the week before Valentine's Day,
wow.
1 year ago. So they called me back. This was on a Tuesday. They said, yeah, we got your resume. Can you come in tomorrow for an interview? And I said, well, I can't make it tomorrow. What about Thursday? And they said, sure. Come in at Thursday at 10 p.m. because it's for the night shift. Okay, fine. I told Kiba, told my wife. She's like, well, it must be God. Let's go ahead and book the flight. We never know. Excuse me. So we booked the flight. I flew in to Michigan that afternoon, got a rental car, got my hotel room, cleaned myself up, went to my interview. I'm in the interview and they're asking me my experience. And I told them, I said, well, I used to set up the routes for the strip and, make sure that all the hotels and the government buildings got all their product. And they said, wait. The strip, what is the strip? I said, the Las Vegas Strip. And the man said, wait a minute, you live in Las Vegas? I said, yes. This is what he said to me. He said, no matter how this interview goes, I'm impressed that you spent money to come here. So I said, okay. They gave me a tour of the facility, really nice facility and whatnot. And they said, we'll be giving you a call. Okay. I didn't tell anybody that I was here. My brother, my daughter, my sister, nobody knew I was here for that interview. I did the interview on a Thursday. I was supposed to fly back to Vegas that Friday morning or Friday mid-morning, early afternoon. The next morning, I ate breakfast. My wife said, why don't you go just look at some houses? We got a little bit of time to spare before you got to be at the airport. I go to look at some houses. She's looking up some stuff on the line, on the web. She said, go check this house out. She called the people. They said, well, the house isn't available. Then they called right back and said, the deal fell through. The house is available today. Right. So I said, wow.
All right.
Wow. So, okay. I told my wife, I rode by it. Snow was everywhere. This is the first week of February. Snow was everywhere. It was high. It was everywhere. So I told Kiba that everything, I said, the house looks beautiful. I got on my plane. I had a layover in Denver. I got to Denver. The job called me and made me an offer.
Come on,
Wow.
Jesus.
I took the offer, got to Vegas. They called me that evening and asked, could I come back for my physical? I said, okay, next Friday. So I plan to come back. So I called in to work the next week and I flew back out here that Thursday. I set up a walkthrough with the house. We did a walkthrough with the house and everything. Everybody was so nice and everything. They were so ready to make this deal with the house. They started just throwing in stuff. God was doing it. So I took my physical and whatnot. This what makes it really funny. So I wasn't telling anybody what was going on. Only my wife knew. and my kids, of course. But none of my daughter that lived here didn't know. My sister, my brother, nobody knew. I had a headache that night, and I told my wife, I was across the street from a gas station. I'm gonna go over to the gas station and get some aspirin. This, mind you, this is during when everybody had to wear masks, in 2021 in February. I go over to the gas station, and I'm way out by the airport. I'm not in the inner city. I go and walk inside the gas station. As I'm walking in, my best friend is walking out with his wife. And we got on masks. He looks at me, and I look at him, and he's staring because he's like, why would Jeff be, I got on a mask. And he's staring at me, and I just did this, and I went inside the gas station and got my aspirin. On my way back home, I sent him a text. Yeah, that was me. And he said, man, why didn't you, and I said, well, I'm in the process, and I told him, well, I'm in the process of some things happening. I'll let you know as they begin to unfold. So my physical passed and everything. I met with my brother actually the next day and had lunch with him. I told him, I said, I'm here in town. I'm gonna have lunch with you. I had lunch with my brother. I told him, I said, I got a job here and I'll be moving back. And he's like, when? Well, the job called me while I was with my brother and asked me, could I start next week?
Wow.
And I'm like, I can't start next week. I gotta move.
Come on.
We ain't even thought about moving. I gotta move a whole house across the country. I'm gonna speed this up because there's so much of God in this. So I get back home. We pack up the house and whatnot. I quit my job. I told him I was gonna give him 2, but I didn't have 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine asked me to preach. He wanted me to preach his anniversary, and I told him originally I told him I was. But this is prior to me knowing I had to move in a couple of weeks. And I said, I'm not going to be able to preach your anniversary. He said, well, can you preach this upcoming Sunday? So I preached that Sunday. The next days, packed up everything with my house. I left that Thursday. Me and Miles, we drove a full truck with my wife's car on the back. We had a transport on the back with her car. And so we started driving across country that Friday to be here in Michigan Sunday. We were gonna be here in Michigan on Sunday, unload the house, part of the house, go to the airport to pick up Kiba and Jevin that night, and then fly back to Vegas again on Monday to load up the rest of the house and do it again.
Wow.
So we're driving across country, me and my son Miles. We get to Iowa. We only like 4.5 miles from Michigan. It's foggy as all get out. Somebody pulls up next to me and they put their window down. They're like, the trailer, the wheel is off of the trailer. And I mean, sparks and everything. I didn't know. I pull over. This could have been a bad accident.
Yes.
It was off. I pull over and I'm like, geez, I'm only 4.5 hours away. And this happened. It was on a Sunday. They couldn't get me another trailer. So what happened was, I pulled the car off the transport. I told them, come get your trailer. Miles, you drive the car. Mind you, my son had never driven before.
Oh my God. What a way to get broken into driving.
4.5 hours from Iowa to Michigan.
Right. Oh my God.
Through the fog, through Chicago, through.
And never drove before and had to drive through that. Oh my God.
He drove in a parking lot, but we would have been stuck because what the people told me was they could give me a transport on Monday. That wouldn't have worked. They said, well, we'll put you in a room and give you a transport tomorrow. My wife flies in tonight. I already got a ticket to fly back to Vegas on Monday. I got to be at the airport tomorrow morning. This ain't gonna work. Excuse me. So I left the transport. Miles got to the house. My friends was there waiting. God again. The day before we got there, all the snow melted. No tracking of the snow in my house. None. They helped me get everything into the house. got to Cuba there at the airport at 10 p.m. that night. The next morning, me and Miles flew to Orlando. Then we flew out to Vegas. Me and Miles been
Oh my
everywhere.
God. Okay, I'm like, talk about just all kind of travel.
Yeah, so then we went back to Vegas. We rest on Monday and Tuesday and packed everything up Wednesday and left Thursday with the second round of everything. And here we are.
Year later. Wow.
And I don't work at the place because that's not what God intended me to do. He intended me to minister the gospel. He just needed me to get out of what I was comfortable with.
That's right.
And the only way to get out of it
yes.
was to do something.
So you don't work at the job where you did all of that to get the job. That I just want to be clear about that.
I do not.
He just used that literally to get you there.
Man, because I probably would have stayed stagnant and complacent. Being honest.
Yes.
Oh my God. God is just so awesome. And we know, like, and he always does things where we can't take the credit for it. It's nothing but God that could have allowed any of that to happen.
And it's been so much even since then. I mean, we've traveled in this last year and a half. I probably traveled more than I've traveled in my life. I mean, we've been everywhere. We've been everywhere. I started school, so I started school.
Right. I was going to say, what are your plans for the future? What is Jeff West doing for the future?
Well, my heart also is pastoring. So, we've started and launched, but not what you would think conventional. Really, I've been ministering to people on the street, ministering to people that I come in contact with, not so much as the edifice or having the building, though that may be coming as well. We're more so trying to reach people that don't know Jesus, and people that have been scarred in their encounter with the church, people that have kind of give up on the Lord because of their interactions with people.
Yes.
And that's so we've been really in a healing process, even and healing people.
Yes, because heal people. Man.
Right. And so, just learning, going deeper into the grace of God, the mercy of God, because y'all know me, I was extremely critical of people. I was overly critical, like dogmatic, like really dogmatic with people.
Yes. We were too.
I had to repent and ask God to forgive me of that and show me a better way to minister to people. And he said, just be yourself. Mm-hmm. You don't have to, quote, Genesis to Revelation to them. They just want somebody to be authentic and just love on people. I've had so many people since I've been here to say, hey, my life is better for it since you moved here. And it's not because I've done anything great. I know people are hurting now. There's a lot of people that are hurting because of their experience coming through COVID, unemployment, not just the church is part of it, but not, I don't want to blame the church.
It's not, yes.
It's so many different facets to that got people really abandoning their faith and shipwrecked in their faith, that we just want to get people to understand the love of God, and mercy and the grace.
So I was going to say that. I was going to say, as we close, what is it that you would like for our viewers and our listeners to know, if you had anything to say to them?
If I had anything to say to the viewers and the listeners, allow yourself to grieve, allow yourself to mourn, allow yourself to have emotions. Those are real. Allow yourself to be angry. Allow yourself to be frustrated at times. The Bible says these light afflictions are but for a moment. So don't make a monument out of the moment, and be okay with the moment that you have. Be okay with being yourself, your authentic, your true self. You don't have to be what someone else has pictured you to be, or what what you see on TV. Social media is messing folk up, but just it's okay to be genuine, and it's okay to be different,
Okay to be different.
It's okay
Unapologetic and free.
Yeah,
unapologetic and free. Yes.
Right. It's okay to be different, even as I come across so many people that been rejected because of their sexuality. What a shame. That's not what the gospel is. The gospel isn't rejection. The gospel is embracing people, no matter what the background is. I don't care what your background is. What does that have to do with anything? Jesus embraces you. He loves you. And it's not my job to critique you like that.
It's not.
It's not my job to critique you. My job is to point you to the cross, that he loved you and he died for you.
That's right.
He died for you.
Amen. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We've enjoyed our time. Again, we never take it lightly for anyone to come on and share their story with us.
Exactly.
Again, as someone who's known you for 17 years, I didn't know any of that. And so I'm just grateful. I just want to let our viewers know that Jeff West is one of the few people who call me by my middle name as my first name.
When we logged on, I almost called you that. I really did.
And you're one of those ones that it's just been natural. You just always called me that. And so I laugh every time, because I'm like, Jeff is the only one who calls me that. And I don't know when or how or why, but again, it's just natural. And I just always laugh about that. And it again just reminds me that we're family. And because only family knows what my middle name is. And so for you to know my middle name and use it, it just always reminds me that, again, despite everything, 17 years, as far as I'm concerned, we've still family, we've been family, and nothing's ever changed about how I felt about you or feel about you as my brother in Christ. Charnay, do you have anything?
I would like to say, where can our viewers and listeners find more about what you're doing? Do you have any handles?
No, I don't have any handbooks or anything like that. Periodically, I'll post a video of whatever God has put on my heart. I got to get more. Well, maybe I don't. I'm trying my best not to be so regimented that I'm in a box.
Okay.
I don't like the tuning for me, and I'm not saying this is for everybody. I don't like to tune in at 8 o'clock on such and such day, every 8 o'clock on such and such day, because what if God didn't give me nothing for 8 o'clock for that day?
Oh, come on,
Can I just say, God didn't give me nothing for 8 o'clock for today, guys? I'll post something next time. We feel like we've got to say something a lot of times, and a lot of times God be like, just shut up and sit down.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I ain't saying the Lord told somebody to shut up, but sometimes he may have told.
And he talks to me like that. He talks to me like that.
Sit down somewhere. Sit down.
Right. Please do me a favor, though. Please tell my big brother George that I said hello. Please tell my big brother, because George calls him elder brother, but he's the younger brother. So please tell elder brother of George, which is the younger brother elder, I said hello as well.
We will tell Uncle Elder you said hello.
Okay.
Uncle Elder and big brother George, tell him I said hello, and tell your husbands thank you you guys for having me. I appreciate it. I need to order some sauce.
Oh, definitely let me know, because we do ship all 50 states. So let me know when you're ready. And so we will be in touch. Again, we'll make sure we let you know. We'll send you the links when the episode is going to air.